Oh, you went to the wrong spot?
Yes.
Sorry. Welcome to the York School Committee's special meeting. Today is February 25th, 2026. Sorry to start a few minutes late. It is 3:50. Yep, it's 3:53, and we'll call to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do you guys have the land acknowledgement up?
I don't.
Okay, now I'll read the land acknowledgement. York is located on the land of the Pennacook and Abenaki peoples of the Wabanaki Confederacy, who have ongoing cultural and spiritual connections to this land. We acknowledge and honor with gratitude the land and the people who have stewarded it through the generations, and recognize York's responsibility to maintain and protect these homelands for future generations. All right, let me get back to our agenda. So thanks for your patience while we rescheduled. We initially were planning to meet Monday, and then the blizzard delayed us to today, and then we have one member still trying to get home. So the four of us are here. So the purpose of this meeting is to review as a board the final capital request that we sent to the select board. This is all information that we've talked about in different contexts, in the context of five-year capital plan, reorganization plans, and trying to prioritize the needs of the school buildings. So initially, our plan at kind of the beginning of the capital season, and going back a year really, was to look at consolidation or reorganization of the 4 schools into a configuration that is more efficient, a more efficient way to deliver education, and a better use of facility or money that we spend on facilities. So through that work, we hired Harriman Architects, who took a pretty deep dive into the condition of the school buildings and made some recommendations around what may be needed to consolidate into either 3 buildings, which would be either Village and or Coastal, the high school and the middle school, and that would maintain central office at the Route 1 location, or a further consolidation into 2 buildings, the middle school and the high school, and that would allow us, plus minus, to move the central office over as well. So within the context of that reorganization, there was quite a lot of architectural planning, really closer looks at the conditions of the buildings, which better informed our capital projects. And when we looked at our 5-year capital plan, it was pretty clear that we had underestimated some projects just from not knowing the details of the significance of the really deterioration of some parts of the building. And it gave us an opportunity to look at how the buildings could better serve the school community, and also with an eye towards how can we best use taxpayer dollars now and into the future for providing more efficient, like running the school department more efficiently. And what we mean by that is really maximizing the use of our space, maximizing staffing. We've talked a number of times that staffing is our biggest expense. So really our push forward through this last year has been looking to get a solid consolidation plan that we could bring forward. And when we heard from various channels, public meetings, presentations to the select board, conversations with the budget committee, was that there was more of an appetite for a phased approach and a more complete plan of what consolidation would look like. Our last meeting that we voted at was, where we voted to, as a board, direct Harriman to bring forward a complete plan of what a two-school consolidation plan would look like. That's the direction the school committee has decided we'd like to further investigate. And we had an initial plan of, the initial plans that Harriman brought to us with rough order of magnitude had pretty significant costs associated with a renovation at the high school, like a pretty moderate cost associated with renovation at the middle school, significant costs for renovation at Coastal Ridge, that brought forward a lot of structural issues and building issues. And then we did one last sweep through in conversation about what it might look like to include Village Elementary instead of Coastal Ridge as a 3-school plan. So where the school committee left it was, we know we're moving towards consolidation. We don't have a complete enough plan that we feel comfortable bringing forward a major capital ask, but we think that the direction or the condition of the high school, the condition of the middle school really demands immediate action, and it's going to take some capital. So the capital ask that we brought to the select board and the budget committee in the last couple of weeks really kind of pulled out from the master plan of the 2 schools to focus in on the middle school, which the HVAC has been in conversation for a while and was on capital planning for at least 2 years. And then the high school, we pulled out prioritized list of capital improvements to address both safety and security, efficiency in bringing kids through the cafeteria, a better use of that space, and then replacing the aging, non-functional, original kitchen equipment, which has also been on capital for a number of years. We also pulled out the gym, kind of the lower range of the gym renovation. They're in the initial rough order of magnitude plan, the C1 and C2 that Harriman brought forward and the 2-school plan. The more expensive option was a almost $9 million renovation just to the gym. When we talked through that as a board, it would mean taking the gym offline for 18 months to 2 years, and it would be a really expensive upgrade to the gym. So the decision was, we'd really like to renovate and what we have, make the locker rooms usable, the bathrooms usable, the fitness room usable, and then part of the consideration of why the original plan of the gym expansion was so expensive was it was trying to find some additional gym space that could be utilized both by the high school but also by the town, because gym space is at a premium. And if we consolidated out of 4 buildings to 2, there was concern that there would be loss of some gym space, which would negatively impact recreational programming and make that gym space even more at a premium. So we did, instead of expanding the footprint of the physical gym space at the high school, we asked Harriman to get creative, and they offered us an option of a separate athletic dome, which is really just like a shell of like a covering over an athletic field, so that could be utilized by the high school, and then also safety and security wise have a place that the high school students and faculty would evacuate to in case of an emergency, and also provide some weather-protected gym space for the town to use as well. So the purpose of our meeting today is to review those items. We can go through, Heather just sent over a more broken out version of the kind of rough estimate that we sent over to the town 2 weeks ago, and that they pulled out the kind of line items into the warrant articles, which are under conversation at the budget committee, and the select board will review at future meetings. So we don't need a formal vote on capital, but I do think it's important to have, a conversation that we, are on the same page as a board to move forward with not the full consolidation plan, but kind of this phase one staging of what we expect to be a future consolidation plan, and just another look over these recommendations that we agree that these are needed upgrades now and would fit into a future consolidation plan in the future.
Yeah, that was part of the initial discussion when we discussed the consolidation, was these capital items that were needs, that were number ones, things that have been put off for years, and saying, we can fold them into,
Kim's looking at you.
sorry, we can fold them into the consolidation plan. But that these were kind of the primary focus, and folding them into the consolidation plan was a bonus. But it was all kind of worked around these items. So they've always been on the table. And I think they lead towards kind of like the groundwork of what we would need anyway to start moving classes and moving students around.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. And I would just say too, like, these are all areas where students are, like, all the time. Like, these are high traffic, high use areas where I think it would be really nice to provide for students and staff some improved facilities that's long overdue.
Right. So I think some of the kind of struggle around the conversation has been like which came first, and I think the 5-year capital items that we had on our capital improvement plans, I think it makes sense to pull those into a capital plan that exists now. When they went on the capital improvement plan, it like predated a reorganization or consolidation conversation, so they existed in sort of this, like stepwise, kind of like we don't want to, spend $15 million this year, so we can do it like 3 million, 3 million, 3 million, 3 million. But I really, in the interest of not having continual disruption to high school students, not having constant construction happening, and to really, like, the cafeteria and the gym make sense to do together. They're similarly in rough shape. They are next to each other, and they, like you said, are consistently used by all students as well as the community. So it pulled in a lot of the items that were kind of year to year going forward. But very little of it is like a brand new, ask. It's more just how can we tie in the future asks that we are anticipating with the information, with the new information that we have now about like what needs to be done with electrical, paving, heat pumps, like really facility specific, roofing needs and all of that, like it's just all here in one package. So it is a large number. It is, we're at 24.8 million for the high school. 8.3 million of that came from the 5-year capital plan that was already, that had gone through capital planning. And then a significant portion of it is the gym refurbishing, and that came from the less expensive plan for the high school consolidation. The cafeteria plan is the kitchen renovation, which we talked about, the cafeteria renovation, which is the actual space that the students occupy, and then 1.5 million is the athletic dome, and then 1.2 million is the design contingency for the architects, and then 225,000 is the sidewalk, like we've talked about, for along Weber Road. That is like the last piece of the track.
The planning board had added to the track and field.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I joined the board a year and a half ago, I was surprised to see that the high school kitchen and cafeteria was the same as it's always been. There had been no change to it. And I was also recently shocked to hear when Tim said that, that the gymnasium floor had never been sanded down once. And it's one of those things that when you see it done, it will look like a brand new floor. It'll look like a brand new gym. And it's something that I think the school and school department should have taken advantage of years ago. But this means we have 2 more times to do it after this, which could get, a lot more years out of it.
Right.
So February 13th, which was the Friday before vacation, I happened to talk to town manager Pete Joseph. I can't remember what we're talking about. And then at the end of the conversation, he just said, "Oh, by the way, Thursday is the deadline for the warrants for the articles to be voted on." I'm like, "Thursday of vacation?" He said, "Yeah." So and then we kind of gave me a timeline, and we're like, "Wow, okay." We thought they were a little bit later, but that's okay. I mean, we called up Harriman right away. We had a meeting at 11. Kind of went over everything that we had, kind of, realized that it seemed like nobody truly supported, at least from the town-wise, the 88 million, which is understandable. It's a large amount of money. We did get some fairly decent comments about thank you for what you've done preparing for the future from our public, but even them, they were a little bit concerned, why is this all coming at once, $88 million, and rightfully so. I can't tell you why some of these things weren't addressed 5 and 10 and 15 years ago. I don't know why. I have some thoughts, but I mean, to be accurate, I'm probably not going to say the right thing. But I can't tell you why. I think we all need to think, how did we get to the point that the schools became facilities? I think it was over time. We did very little cuts in personnel, which we should have been keeping a better eye on. We were cutting back on infrastructure. We were cutting back on staff development to make sure we had money for wages. That's the only thing I can think of. So, we took a serious look at the staffing last year and this year. I think we've come to a right size of that, which is why our budget probably is so low. When you cut 13 or 14 positions, it's pretty impactful. We did it really through attrition. Only 2 people really lost a job out of this. So that was, I think the board did a very good thing with that. So I don't know going forward, the additional savings over time will be through reducing your footprint and your buildings. But that will take some time because obviously, we're heading up against this now. So we got on the phone with Harriman. There was like 4 of us at the meeting. Harriman puts a rough order of magnitude together. This is kind of what it is. This is the rough order of magnitude. But all of these numbers have gone through the estimator as of 2 weeks ago. So they are accurate. Our capital improvement numbers were slightly lower, rightfully so, but they did upgrade them. So I think the biggest confusion is the 5-year plan piece. It was talked about, we'd like to get the high school done so we don't have to come back to our taxpayers for another $5 million at the high school, So those we got it down to $7 million now. Almost took $1 million out this afternoon. So those are pieces that will have to be addressed at some point, and if we're going to be up there doing major work, why not do them? So I didn't want to shock anybody with the bubble. If you don't know what a bubble is, it is communities are going towards to use it for field, and it's like a second gym. We can spend $10 million on renovating the gym, or we can spend $1.5 million on a smaller conversion. It's not the size of a football field, it's a little bit smaller. It also became an interesting piece for the high school because when we evacuate, we're totally outside. We have no building to go into, and this would give us an option to do that. But I understand that if people are confused about bubbles and they don't want that, I think it's something we need to think about eventually because we're going to need 2 gyms eventually, I believe, unless we really drop an enrollment. So,
Isn't it similar to what's on Route 1 that?
Yeah,
was the
very
Seafood
similar.
United Bubble,
Yeah.
now it's a pickleball bubble?
yeah, and you know, I'm always looking to work together. I think the rec could benefit from this bubble also because just this week I had parents in my office complaining about no gym space. Even though we have all these gyms, our kids have to go out of town to do anything. So, you know, they mentioned the bubble to them, and they thought it was a great idea, but it is what it is. There's no problem with any
It
of that.
could be, like that is something that I think we could consider waiting on
Yeah,
because it's not,
yeah, absolutely.
because we haven't actually closed any
I think,
schools yet, so we
you know,
haven't lost any gyms.
If we're going to bring extra grades in that high school, it might be something you want to think about, and it is a very affordable way of gaining space for recreation, so, or gym or whatever, so, but it's okay. I mean, this is what we're here for, to reduce some of this. Getting back to the multi-purpose renovation, that was around a safety piece, because that would be our main office, guidance area. You have your vestibule, you can control people who go into the performing arts, you can control people who go into the gym, and that's as far as they could get, because it's our main entrance now, so they're not going into the whole school to get to these places, which is safety in itself, we need to think about. So that was never in the original. It was in our design with Harriman, but it wasn't in the original. If you go back to October and the process that was used for capital, I thought it was great. I thought it was sharing. It was all of us around the table, different entities in town. It's a way to do it. I would continue that process. But I felt a little bit between a rock and a hard place, because we were going there with capital, but we also were going in our back of our minds about maybe renovating our schools and remodeling. So you didn't know what to put on the capital because you weren't sure if you're going to have this big project in front of you. Because if you have a big project in front of you, you probably don't need this capital over here. So I felt kind of like caught between a rock and a hard place. But we got through it, and we put basically what we thought could get by, but knowing that we might be doing this big renovation, so we could wipe out all that. But that didn't happen. I knew what happened is exactly what I thought was going to happen. We're going to get caught in between. And how do you write the articles? And it's tough for even the select board to look at this, because it was a tough piece for the school to play. But if we wouldn't have been talking reorganization, I would have put more things into that plan for next year. But it is what it is. It's fine. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point, that the conversation was, we had this conversation a bunch of times at our meetings, like how would we ever
All the
write
time.
these articles? Like if the town wants to move forward and vote or approve school reorganization, what they're approving is the capital for it. But there's so much redundancy in the capital that we would need for school reorganization as there is in what we already know we need in the school buildings themselves. Like, how do we present it as 2 separate plans? Because it's not additive. It's not, it's not 80 million for consolidation plus 25 million for facilities. It's all in the same piece. So I think the best effort was to take the information that we had, which we gathered over the course of a year. I think this was the most in-depth look we've had at our facilities. We had Kirk in place. He knows those buildings inside and out now. We had Harriman look at it from the perspective of, what do you need to just keep these buildings operational and safe? And then what do you need to do to keep, if you wanted to move students over? We took that information, and that's where we had it folded into the capital plan, had the capital folded into a reorganization plan. So what I said last night to the budget committee, I mean, like, it probably would have been an, what's the phrase? Easier road to walk? I don't remember. There's like road to hoe. Okay, it would have been an easier road. I don't know. I like dabbling gardening, not farming, but it would have been an easier way to probably approach the conversation if we said, we know that we're staring at $25 to $30 million in capital needs at the high school. We have an opportunity to look more towards the future for greater savings and improve outcomes for students. If we look at reorganization, let's do these, running parallel versus, stepwise. The conversation became complicated because it was, it's hard, it was hard to pull those things out. And as we continued to look more deeply at what was really going on at the high school and what was really going on at the middle school, the projects as anticipated or as we should have anticipated kept, adding on. So it's, I'm thinking of this as like the priorities that need to be done at the high school. We've talked about kind of endlessly: the cafeteria, the kitchen, the gym, safety and security. We've talked about the offices where the administration is now are subterranean. There is
Yeah.
complaints of
So we've had,
mold and mildew smells and potential need for, we're doing radon testing now, which those results will be, I don't know, a month out, I think.
no, it'd be sooner. We were tested this week
Yeah.
for the radon, yeah.
So if we want to move forward my preference was always to move forward kind of with one plan to the town, one vote. Though we didn't get there. So I think this is the next best option, is to say, like, these are the priorities at the high school. This will become the first step of consolidation, but this meets the needs of the students who are there now. It meets the needs of the faculty that are there now, and it will also meet the future needs of whatever students are there. Like, there is nothing in this plan that would be unnecessary or undone if we move forward with consolidation, which I wanted you guys to confirm. Okay.
The other challenging piece of this is setting a timeline, and I think it's important that we set a timeline, 2029, 2030, we're going to make a move. But if we don't set the timeline, if we don't know what we're doing for repairs, it's hard to set the timeline. But without the timeline, we're constantly spinning ourselves with all these ideas to try to, make things work. And it's always another idea, like, let's build a brand new CAF, or let's not do this, let's do this, let's do a 3-story addition, which we got away from. We said, we don't think we need that. So setting that timeline and having a plan. But it's hard because you got to go to the voters, and you got to understand that this is something they have to vote on too. So it's very tough. So, but it's very understandable. I mean, today's economy and taxes, we understand it, but I don't think I don't know why we got to the point with our buildings, but we are at this point.
Yeah, we are.
And, the gym, Rick's right. The easiest way to improve a gym is to sand your floor, repaint it, paint the walls, fix up your bleachers, and you got a brand new gym without spending. Well, I'm just saying, we built a gym and it was probably close to $8-9 million.
Right.
You probably can do that fairly easy. Yeah, the bubble can go on hold if you like. I mean, these other things can go on. You can put anything you want on hold
Sure.
tonight. I'm just here to help. The 5-year capital plan, it's vague. You got to have it more detail. Well, it's all the things we spread out over 5 years. If you think you don't want to do that, but we run the risk of going back to the taxpayers in a year or two saying, oh, we need another $5 million. Well, what are you talking about? We just gave you 20, that's kind of what we don't want to be involved, because eventually we will go to the middle school and start doing some improvements, because when you can move a grade to the high school or 2 grades to the high school, you should be moving 2 grades to your middle school and slowly condensing your footprint. If it's one building in a central office or central office in 2 buildings, over time, I think, I like the idea of going a little slower, because it gives us time to look what this has done already.
Right.
And thinking that we're going to have to do this in, to 2 buildings, it's a lot of people get involved, and they should. But I mean, I was impressed with our community meetings. A lot of them signed up for tours, thanked us for doing this, thanked us being futuristic, looking ahead. It's just, it is what we wanted, and basically we're here for kids. I did hear from a parent again this week about the weight room, that they're looking for a place to go lift weights because it's not even conducive. I mean, it's just not a good area. Can't get in there. They're looking to go out of town to pay a member, it doesn't add up. I mean, we got some great athletes who could go to some big-time colleges and really do what's right for York, but, and if that's not what people want, I guess we understand that, but I can't imagine not looking what's important in your schools but
I mean,
we're here to help.
Yeah, I mean, my impression of York, and I think what I've seen since I've lived here, still a relative newcomer, only 10 and a half years, is there's a lot of support for well thought out plans. So I think that we did the work, and I agree. I don't mind doing it in a phased approach. I just wanted to be, I think, starting with our end goal and then working backwards from there, let us get to this phased approach. I think if we didn't start with a consolidation or reorganization plan as our end goal, we would be spinning our wheels in the high school. What if we didn't run it, or what if we renovated the cafeteria differently? 3 years from now, if we're looking at reorganization, shouldn't we have thought of that? Like that was the feedback that we got early on, and I agreed with, and we got consistently, like, we'll support a plan as long as it is, like not short-sighted. So would it be helpful to go through this? The high school plan, the items that were already on the capital improvement plan add up to $8.3 million. So that was our 5-year plan. It includes electrical panel updates, FPE panels, the trim in the gym. I don't know what EIFS is, but I think it has something to do with weatherproofing under roof overhangs, repair and repointing of bricks, caulking and sealants, repairing brick buttresses, flooring, the ceiling ventilations. We've talked a lot about HVAC, replacing the classroom unit ventilators that are failing, repaving, adding the sidewalk along both entrances, replacing the siding on, is that the siding? Is EDPM the siding? Siding on the original building and the addition from 1999, replacing the gym roof, maintenance to the roofing systems, safety and security, which I believe are camera upgrades. So all of that was already on our 5-year capital plan. So we pulled that into this project.
So that's important to note. All of those items that she just read are not from Harriman. The prices are from Harriman, because we were a little low, but these are over time. Even the old plans that we reviewed before when I got here, even the ones we created with Kurt, these are us. This isn't Harriman, so.
There's not a single thing in that list I think really should be controversial. That's like, we need to do this to maintain our building's longevity.
Right, and I mean, quite a bit of it actually is repairing and replacing things that have already failed. So instead of doing it on a 5-year cycle, it got pulled into the project. So that's, so of the $24.8 million that we have on the capital plan, 8.3 of that was already in existence on the 5-year capital improvement plan. So the rest of it, we had talked extensively about the YMS HVAC replacement, so that's on for $3 million. And then their phase 3, is that the final phase of the windows?
That's final, yeah.
So the phase 3 of 3 for the window replacement at the middle school is $3.4 million. And then the other projects at the high school are pulled from the work that Harriman did that we kind of followed along with. The safety and security upgrades to the entrances, which involves moving the administrative and guidance offices to the other side of the building, moving the nurses station to the other side of the building. So what Tim's describing, I know that we all know, but for just for clarity in public, the high school has two functional entrances. Administrative offices are on one side, and the YCA is on the other, and that's where people access the multipurpose room, the cafeteria, and the gym. Maybe that's the side that you would have entered if you've gone to vote at the high school. And so the concern is that there's a lot of traffic, parking, a lot of people on that far side of the building with no eyes on it, and the administrative offices are on the other side. So there's a lot of traffic that moves through through the building, trying to coming in that one entrance, but actually looking for administrators. So there's public that walk through the schools to get to the administrative side, or and then just a lack of visibility for people to be able to, like, administrators watching what's happening in the parking lot. So part of the safety and security recommendation was to have that centralized to that other entrance. If the administrative and guidance office is moved to the other side, then there would kind of be like a self-contained a public space for the high school. So there wouldn't be public parents, people walking through the buildings without being directed from that one space. And if parents came for administrative meetings, or the public came to meet with the administrators, they would have access only to that space. And then that would also be some crowd control for entering the community auditorium and those bathrooms and that back entrance to the gym.
And we heard during the budget committee meeting that there is no alarm system in our high school. So by having that office where it is, and the state of Maine really forces or like to have schools have one entrance. Right now, we're existing to have two because it's, moving it there, you can actually close off your school during a public event, basketball game, a play, close it off so you don't have people going through two doors, and like graduation. Graduation, when I got to graduation from the front entrance, the doors were all left open, people coming in. You didn't know who was who in the building. So you can lock it down and keep our building safe. So, but I understand, but I do want to preface that in October, that was not something that we brought to the Capitol. It came out of this reorg, and it came out of the work that Harriman did, so.
But my understanding also is that with this being a new change, along with the safety and security, it would allow, like you said, locking things down at that end, like the YCA, so that possibly outside functions could exist in the YCA during school without interfering with the rest of the school building, which is something new and would be a bonus. And it also would improve the health and safety of all the office workers who are working in the mold and mildew conditions that.
That's right. So we have that whole issue in our guidance office for a number of years. I guess I was told it was 11 years now that we've had this smell of mold, and they put in some air ventilation. Then we had the whole test for radon that came, they weren't over, but one was close. I don't know what it is. And the only thing we can think of, it's when you look out the window, you're looking into the grass, so there's dirt built up there. So we thought about removing the dirt, rebuilding the wall, finding out what's causing the water piece, or that smell, and then maybe fixing it the way it should be fixed, and then open that space up for more classrooms. And one space could be for multi-use, so have a bigger conference room that they can do multiple things in on that end of the building. So, but it did not come into our October meeting. I got to just honestly say that. So, but it did come out of all the work we did with Harriman, and it kind of makes sense. So. The floor refinish is simply sand down and repaint and revarnish with a sealer on top. So bleacher repairs, we have some bleachers right now that are loose. Boards are, metals needs to be fixed. Some areas need to be replaced. I don't think we need a whole new bleacher system, which would be a lot more than what we have here for money, but for at least repairs we would. And then paint the walls. I don't know how long it's been. And get the walls painted, clear up some of the dust that's up there, brighten it up. So when people walk in, it's like, whoa, this is nice in here, And that's not a lot of money there. That's maybe something we ought to, make sure and think about. Locker room vision, when I talked to Harriman, even today, that's a whole restructure. Tear the wall down, build them bigger, put more airflow in there, get it so we can have multiple places where, we could at least do 2 classes of phys ed if we had to. The fitness room, I heard again this week from a family that just said it's just awful. Kids don't want to go in there. It's not kept. It's just not. The floor needs to be changed. We have 2 heating elements against the window. Those need to be moved on the roof, on the top of the ceiling, open that whole space up, different subsurface. You could put in some carpet. You could put in some of that layer floor, change the racks out. They're old. There's a section that could be a cardio room also. And then, we were asked at the Budget Committee, what are we doing about athletics? And I think it's a great question. 72% of our students participate in some type of, drama, sports, band. And when you look at our facilities, you wouldn't think so. I'm tired of parents telling me that we went to Biddeford, we went to Mount Ararat, and these gyms are beautiful, and I'm just kind of, it isn't me. I'm just doing what parents are asking. So,
Right.
so the fitness room, we have looked into it even before this. It needs some help.
My concern with the fitness room in particular and the locker rooms is gym space is already at a premium, and the fitness room as it stands is too small for high school classes to be held in there. So the middle school has that really large weight room and fitness room on the garden level, and then when you come to the high school, it only can hold 14 students. So it really is, it's like a drop in the quality of the programming, and so the ask for that was to renovate the fitness space in a way that is accessible for athletes, but also is accessible for every kid that goes to high school to be able to have a PE class that involves fitness, like weightlifting, cardio, and not just in the gym, because it's not possible right now.
Yeah. And, there's weights, there's racks, there's spin bikes, there's exercise bikes, looks like things that people got from garage sales and just threw them in there so kids to use. It's really, you could do less, but with better stuff and get a lot more out of it. So, kitchen and serving line, I did talk to Whitney today. The kitchen, there was some, you guys might know this better than I do, but at one point in time, they said about 15 to 18 years ago, there was an article to upgrade the cafeteria with floor tiles and fixtures and to fix the kitchen. I guess they didn't have enough money to do both, so they just did some flooring and I think the trophy cases in the caf, and they didn't do anything to the kitchen. And she said, people were upset because it didn't happen, but she said, our kitchen has not changed since the high school, like Rick said. So, when you have to make a choice, I think the kitchen would overcome than the caf, but the caf spaces, we're looking at not a la carte, but we're looking at serving stations, not serving line. And she said, I want them built in the serving line. I don't want it into the caf. So that was great news. That's what we have it planned to build in the serving line. High school kids sometimes will sneak a few things sometimes and not pass it through the thing. So she doesn't want that. She wants it in the serving line. But, you need 2 coolers, you need a breaker room, electrical upgrades, you need ovens, 2 walk-in freezers, mixing bowls, serving. That's what's needed in there. So that's probably why the price is. And then your caf is to redo the lighting, the ceilings, the floors. The bubble is something that if you think it's not needed right now, I understand that.
I think it actually is something that it's better to get ahead of that now, because, if it's there, then it would help facilitate moving the 8th grade over, because then there is the extra gym space. And like I said, it's extra outdoor space that if the band wanted to practice marching, they could go out to the bubble and do it there, be outside, but be out of the elements. I think it could be used by all kinds of classrooms, and I think it would be a great resource for the school to have there.
I know, I agree with you. I guess if it's the only, I guess if we were gonna take something off, that would be the thing that I would take off, just because we hadn't, that's like the most recent thing that we talked about, but also we've talked extensively about how much, how the schools are the only recreational space for the town, and there's already such, when we talked to Pete Murray, he said that there is no way to add any more recreational programming that involves a gym space. Like, we could add more programming that involves classroom space or potentially this cafeteria space, but they have no option to add any more programming that would involve gym space, and we already have an issue with kids practicing late and in undersized gyms. And, I think this would alleviate a lot of that stress. We could offer the town more space. Part of the conversation initially was maybe that would be taken up by the community center, but that's not moving forward right now. And even if the community center did move forward, we would still, the high school and middle school would still benefit from the added athletic space. But
And lastly, the sidewalk, Robert Stevens Ave, that's, the planning board put that piece on as part of the project. We are still short for the project by about 260,000. Rick and I looked at that the week before vacation. The Boosters Club has now closed that account out, moved the check over, and when you look at all the expenses, even though the bid was lower, the expenses were still short by 260. There might be some pieces that we can cover through the school, but not. We'll still have to fundraise. Well, we're not nervous. We got plenty of time to hopefully fundraise a little bit more, but there is no extra money, which we thought we'd have. When we ran the numbers, it looked like the architect, CHA, some of those things were up charges because of changes and stuff. Most of the major changes were paid by donors, thank God. Or we probably wouldn't have done them anyway, so, but, because they were paid. But we're still short a little over 200 and some thousand, so that doesn't make, so that's, I have talked to Tim at the town about the sidewalks, and I've talked to Peter Joseph. They're looking, supposedly not next year, the year after, maybe doing Weber. Could we wait 2 years and have the town do all of them? The town did an outstanding job on the sidewalks next to the middle school. Commend that crew, watch them work. Great sidewalks, beautiful sidewalks. Where I live, they put new sidewalks, and they're not like those sidewalks. But they did a great job, and I think it'd be a little more cost efficient if we could have it that way. But I know they're busy in the summertime, and we're still kind of talking about that. But that probably wouldn't cost $225 with the town. But with a private contractor, at the time, it was 180 something that we were quoted, I think, from the contractor, but we said we didn't go with it then because we weren't sure about the money, so. Yeah, so that's in a nutshell there.
Can I actually circle back to one thing, the 5-year capital plan? I believe there was an update earlier, an update to that plan. So it isn't actually 8.3, it's 7.4.
Oh, am I on the wrong page now?
Yeah, we went through it again with Harriman, and there's some things in there that were doubled.
Yeah, so that's actually
Okay.
$900,000 less than
Yeah,
what we thought this morning.
Okay.
yeah. And those numbers are not our numbers. Those are the estimator's numbers from Harriman, so.
All right.
Great. I actually have to run, but I think this looks great, and I'm with you on the bubble. I think this is a if you build it, they will come situation, and everyone is clamoring for more recreation space, and I think it would be sports and athletes in that, but I also think it would be other classes, marching. Like, I think that's a great point that I think it would become almost a multi-purpose space that would be used literally year-round. And a year like this, where the snow is this deep, like
Right.
spring sports get really, they struggle to find space. And so luckily we have that new turf, but then having this other place where kids could play and begin practicing earlier not in a parking lot would be huge.
And just even get out and play, like throwing a frisbee around.
Just to go
you can do
play.
it everywhere.
And yeah, anything. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So you're good with capital as it stands?
Yeah.
So, but thank you, Rick, for the reminder that there was.
That it's lower.
An update from Harriman. So the subtotal for the high school, 23.9, central office, 248, Village Elementary, 83.5, which are the fields, and nothing at Coastal Ridge this year, and 3.425 at the middle school, which is primarily HVAC in phase 3 of 3 for the windows. Yes?
Great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. anything else to cover?
Said I like the idea of the dome as well. I think we need that space. I don't know much about domes. I don't know if we asked Harriman about this, but just like its longevity, wondering like how much is it gonna cost if we're using it in the winter to heat a space like that? Like how well does it insulate? Things like that. As far as like on the surface, I like all of these changes. It's more of the details, or even like what will the warrant articles look like? How are we grouping things?
Well, we don't write the warrant articles, so it would be, that's kind of the conversation for the select board to take up. But I think what I like took away from the select board meeting the other night and from the budget committee last night was just the request was for some more clarity around like detail of where the numbers came from, which is we have even more detail today than we had last week around some cost estimates as they come back from the estimators. So, but the project itself is, like we've said, largely unchanged from our initial conversations of wanting to look at reorganization. It's just kind of been broken out into a phased approach. And a lot of what is on the capital plan for the high school has been known, but we have better numbers put to it now that we had a fresh look at it. And the middle school is unchanged. We've been talking about the HVAC for a number of years. In central office, it's quite minimal. And what we've been talking about, the new vehicles was Kirk's presentation a couple of weeks ago to budget committee to replace the student vehicles that have almost 200,000 miles on them. So. Good.
I think that was kind of up in the air as to whether it was one big or two medium-sized vehicles, and it's hard to gauge that without knowing what the student needs are going to be 2 years from now.
Right.
You know, the middle school project, it's 50-50, because if you took it out and did it when we did the renovations there, if the vote is for that, or you left it in and be less renovations you'd have to do later on. So either way, I think you could win with that, but if you felt the pressure to reduce, but it's $3 million less you're going to have to put in a year or two if we go that direction. So
Are you talking about the middle school HVAC?
yeah, middle
No,
school.
I
No, I mean it's been actually my first year here. I had a real nasty email because of being so hot, and you're not, that the school's done nothing for this.
Yeah.
So I didn't know who it was, but it was nasty, but it was okay.
It's hot. It's true. No, I think we need to move forward with the HVAC plan. I guess what I want to keep saying is this is a more refined look at projects that we knew were coming. And no matter the direction or the length of time it takes us to get to a reorganization, and whether that looks like 3 buildings or 2, and the school committee is committed to looking at a 2-building option, is for the most cost-effective and best use of staffing. This is all incorporated into that plan and stands alone from that plan. So, I know we don't take a formal vote on capital, but I did just think it was important for us to get together now that we have these more refined numbers that came in over break, just to make sure we had time to talk through them and that everyone on the board was comfortable with the capital ask as it stands. Yeah. Good.
Move with it.
All right. I did skip over public comment. Sorry about that. Should we go back to
Still
public
can do
comment?
it. You've got
Did
an
anyone sign up?
audience, so-
Did anyone sign up for public comment? I don't think so. Okay. Sorry. Public comment. All right. Anything else?
This is updated. I'll get this out. Heather will get a copy out to Wendy in the town. We also, Rick did a really good job in helping us out yesterday, created a document for Wendy that kind of groups some of this together. We'll send that out with it tomorrow to Wendy, and then we'll just see what happens.
Great.
If it doesn't get as far as we thought, well, did our
Yeah,
best.
I mean, I think the work is done. We've been working on this for a long time. It's just I think it's a different framework of how we're looking at it, and I think it's in response to, like, I think what was appropriate feedback of, we should look at this at a phased approach and make sure when we move forward with the bigger project of reorganization that it's done, deliberately. So I think this is the sweet spot of where we know the buildings are in poor condition. The facilities can't wait another year for us to come up with a full plan, and this will, this does impact the bottom line of how much reorganization would cost. Like, this comes off the top of whatever the final number of reorganization was, because those plans all incorporated these options in some way. That this would be the less expensive option than the gym renovation that included increasing the square footage, which the board supported not moving forward with for a number of reasons.
It's kind of like if we took the whole consolidation plan and cut it down to the ones. These are the ones, instead of the twos and the threes.
Oh, I thought you said the wants. I was like, no.
Not the wants, the
These are the
ones.
needs.
Or ones, that instead of the other things that might have been, that are twos and possibly threes.
Right.
These are the ones that, that absolutely need to be done.
Right. I mean, when we're talking about roofing and electrical work and plumbing and replacing broken equipment so we can feed kids, I think it's pretty reasonable. All right. So we don't really need a vote, just kind of like wanted to have like a
If it calms
public
everybody down,
conversation.
I think you could. It doesn't, you don't have to, but if you think it just makes it better, you can. We've never really done this. The only vote, it's like our strategic plan. You voted to make a strategic plan. You voted to make a capital. We got things that go in and out of capital all the time.
Right.
I mean, we had a freezer go down at Village over the summer. We put a new freezer in. We didn't come back to the board to change the capital plan because we needed a freezer. So
Right.
you can vote. Nothing says you can't, but you don't have to. So it's up to you. If you think it's cleaner and it appeases people that think you need to vote, then
I don't know.
no, you don't have to. I mean, we've been working on this for a year, so. I think the most important, we did it publicly, and it's videoed, and we'll put this on our webpage, send it off to the town with Rick's piece that he did for Wendy, and see what happens.
I mean, it's not that I want to do or not do something for
No,
the,
You're not doing
but
it
it's not, we don't typically
No,
vote
we
on
haven't done it,
capital. Like,
exactly.
the school committee votes to set a capital plan. Like, we vote to set a strategic plan, and then we don't vote on what
Yeah,
the individual
Yeah.
items are. But it's all done in discussion. It's not like it happens without us knowing, but.
yeah,
All right.
good.
Okay. Anything else?
We're good.
All right. Thanks. We'll adjourn at 4:50.